Hello, welcome back to episode 4, where I talk about the comparison trap. And candidly, this is something that I am absolutely terrible with. It's something that I've worked on my entire life of trying not to compare myself to others. And I think everyone in the world has had difficulties with this as well. And it's not an easy feat to overcome. I'm not saying I've overcome it at all. It's something that I'm just actively working on. And it's something that I just wanted to share in terms of what I'm doing and how I'm moving through it. Because the trap of comparison, whether it's to others and their status, to seeing people with things that they have that we want, whether it's seeing someone with more money, more fame, more women, more guys, whatever that looks like, it's a never ending trap because the thing that we're aspiring to get, like for example, me coming back and doing content and getting 5 views on a video, is hard for the ego. It's hard for me to do that. Back when I was getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views beforehand, when I was doing it from a way different way. Now I'm coming back and be like, okay, I'm going to do it my way, in a way that's authentic and resonates with me, at the price of needing to build things slower. And yet I constantly see other people in the space with a different set of messages said in a different way that are performing way better than me. Better, in quotes. Where I feel like I need to do something different and change my strategy because of that. When in fact, I don't. Not to say I'm not going to look at what's working and what's not working. I just might be early. This is video 4. And with being early and with all that, I'm still in the cycle of trying to balance this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it. And this is why I like doing it this way that resonates with me. And so when I look at the comparison game of looking at all these people with similar messages and similar stories, but also different, and getting tens of thousands and hundred thousands of views, I'm like being like, I need to change something because I want what they have, right? I want something outside of me and I want something that exactly is what they have. And then I compare. And the comparison is then met with judgment and shame. I should be there. I should be there. I should have the success. I should have the money. By this time, I should have X, Y, and Z. And we do this dance when in reality, it's not how it works. Because everyone else and what they're doing and on their own path does not affect me and what I'm trying to do for my mission, whatever that looks like down the road. And so it doesn't matter if you're trying to go onto a path and you're seeing the people who are, you're at step 1 or 2, and you're seeing people at step 27, step 78, right? It doesn't matter what they're doing. They're on their own path and their own journey. You're on your own path. And that's something that is so tough for me to do. And I've done this throughout my life, is that anytime I get to a place, a goal, a milestone, I'm always like, cool, thanks. And I'm looking ahead and I'm trying to be like, okay, well, how did these people have all this and I only have this? And so I'm always perpetually in the future and always perpetually comparing myself to others that are at a different step in the journey that I'm on, even though everything that they're doing has nothing to do with me and what I'm doing here or in a different setting. It has nothing to do with me. But I constantly go back to that. And I think another part of that amplifies this is social media. Again, I'm taking a bet by doing this type of content in this format where it's so long form, so drawn out, and just so different than the average clickbaity headline, title, caption, follow, and subscribe. There's just a song and dance to get the views, to get the subscribers, to get the followers, because they're trying to get to someone that they think is above them when it's not. It's not the game. In social media, whether it's the creators who are looking at the vanity metrics or it's just in your own Instagram feed, your own TikTok feed of people getting engaged, buying the car, going on a trip, doing a thing, having all this money, getting a deal, like whatever that looks like. Social media is always the amplification of the top tier success. And rarely anyone ever posts about a hard time they're going through or something that isn't resonating or whatever it is. Like it's all just a highlight reel on social. But we're so addicted to being on social and wanting to see more and the dopamine, and I'm just as guilty of as it too, that we're still looking subconsciously at everyone's highlight reel and the deep thoughts of being like, when is this going to happen for me? When am I going to be able to do that? When do I get my chance? Right? When are they going to come along? When am I going to get the yacht, in the mansion, in the boat, in the parties, or the family, in the big house, in the success, in the show, in the podcast, all that stuff? Like that's the thoughts in the back of the head. And that's why social media is an amplification of that. Again, with all of those thoughts, what's met is judgment and shame. Because when we have those thoughts in comparing of, well, they have this and they have that, and I'm here, but they're there. What's met behind that, and this is something that I do all the time, so I don't have it all figured out, is immediate judgment and shame. That is what that's met with. Immediate judgment and shame. And this is something I was literally on a call with my teacher about yesterday. About how I'm so stuck in my head of trying to get somewhere that I'm not, that I continuously judge myself and shame myself for it. And that is what happens when we have those thoughts of the comparing aspect. And it's toxic to the self. It is. And in that moment, we are being our own worst best friend, our own worst friend in that space of complete judgment and shame. And what we talked about yesterday is this concept of the key to getting through all that is radical acceptance. Being so okay with who you are, where you're at, what you look like, how much you make, all these things, where you live compared to everyone else in the world. Because everything that everyone else is doing does not apply to you and your own path, in your own journey. And when I heard that yesterday of radical acceptance, I immediately was like, well, how do I, like, what does that mean? How do I do that? And what I've been thinking about over the past night is just any time I feel that judgment and that shame come up, I can feel it. It's like a sensation in the body of just like this mucky, sticky energy and just like this density. And whenever that comes up, just to let it go. Because all that judgment and that shame is just a story we're trying to tell ourselves because we're not somewhere that we think we need to be in the moment. And my teacher was just saying, how can you be so okay and so present with where you're at? And that includes all of the good and all of the bad. All those parts of your life, all those parts of yourself, the parts you don't want to talk about or acknowledge, it's all part of accepting who you are. And that, for me, was super helpful of just understanding that acceptance is not just being like, okay, and then moving on. It's sitting so deeply into what is and what is happening in your life right now that you're okay, that everything's going to be fine, that you can sit with it and just be totally cool with it. Again, from the insanely good things to the insanely bad things to everything in the middle. And not future casting of where you think you should be, where I think I should be. That's my specialty, is going off into the distance, off into the future, thinking of how I can get X, Y, and Z, and the mind goes and goes and goes. And I don't listen to the intuition within, in the space, in the breath, in the slowness of just accepting where I am, and that I know I'll eventually get to where I'm trying to go without looking at other people and seeing what they're doing and then judging myself for it, knowing that that is fine to have a goal, that is fine to have a vision, that's fine. And just to slowly do the things I need to do without the hesitation and the fear and the shame and judgment of looking at other people in being like, why am I not there? Why do I not look like that? Why do I not have that thing that everyone so-called has, right? That we see on social. And when we can accept where we're at, totally, completely, and fully, that is where we then have the space to let new things come in, because we're not in our heads and using up all of our energy to think of ways to get somewhere when we're not there. And it's fine to plan, it's fine to strategize at times, but the true state of being, of who we are, human beings, our true state being a being state, when we're so wrapped up in the stories and the judgments and the fears and the shame, there's no room for anything new to come in, because we keep telling ourselves the same story over and over again, and it loops. And so when we can break free of the stories and quiet that down, we can then bring in the space to expand into new opportunities.